Welcome. You're here with Gold Coast Basketball's discussion panel. We're joined with some legends of the game. Very big welcome goes out to Coach Dave Claxton. Dave Claxton, legend on the Gold Coast, 16 years running the Southport School, multiple NBL head coaching and assistant coaching stints, including the Gold Coast Rollers head coach job. Dave also was Australian men's national basketball assistant coach and went to the World Championships in Toronto when Australia finished 5th. Dave's still heavily involved in the game with Basketball Queensland as well as Hillcrest basketball program here on the coast. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Joel.
Good to see you. We also have Pero Cameron here, the current New Zealand men's national head coach. Pero, a FIBA Hall of Fame member. He captained New Zealand Tall Blacks from 2000 to 2010, helping lead New Zealand to the semi-finals of the 2002 FIBA World Championships, earning an all-tournament team selection in the process. Welcome, Pero.
Thanks, Joel.
And we're also joined by Annie LaFleur, who lives here on the Gold Coast as well. Annie works for FIBA Oceania, which is based in Southport. Her current role sees her working closely with national federations within the Oceania area, engaging them and helping them to develop basketball in all aspects from grassroots to elite. Annie had a very successful career in the game, playing juniors in Sydney, followed by many years in the WNBL. Her journey led her to Europe, playing in France professionally, and also the WNBA. Annie has medals from her Australian representative career, a bronze at the '89 Junior World Championships, which was Australia's first at that level, and also bronze
first at any level, Joel.
Any level.
Any level.
We got a '98 World Championships bronze and a silver at the Sydney Olympics with the Opals. Welcome, Annie.
Hey, Joel. Hi, guys. Nice to see you.
Yep.
Hey, Annie.
So yeah, plenty of experience we have here tonight. So once again, thank you all for being here. I've got a few different discussion points to get through tonight. The first thing I want to talk about is the Last Dance documentary. Have you guys been watching it? What are your thoughts on it? I'll start with you, Dave. Have you started on it yet?
I've only just, my daughter's put me on the Netflix only at the weekend. So I've been able to watch one of the sessions of The Last Dance. And one of the things that from the early, I know there's 10 sessions, but of what I saw in the first, I think it sets it up for the rest of the series for me, is from Jordan's point of view, go back to his early development days, high school into college, and how competitive he was and how important it was to him to be able to fundamentally become very sound with his skills and be so competitive to the point that he would never, ever leave the court unless on practice or in games that he hadn't done as much as he could to be the best he could be. One aspect of that first session was he challenged James Worthy. Now, James Worthy was, in his own right with the Lakers, one of the best small forwards. And when they were in college, there's Jordan as a freshman going in and challenging Worthy, who was a senior. After practice, they all thought they'd finished. And he says to Worthy, "Nah, I want you to come back and let you and I go one-on-one." Well, Worthy said in that session, he goes, Jordan would never let up. He wanted to be the best. And he said, Worthy said, "I was better than Jordan, but only for 2 weeks."
What about you, Pero? You've watched a couple episodes?
Yeah, I've watched a couple of episodes. I'm only up to, I think I've seen the first 2 sessions. Dennis Rodman, he gets me, Michael Jordan's always my favorite player growing up because, what he's done and what he does. But just seeing a little bit of Rodman and hearing the stories from the likes of Sean Marks and a couple of friends there, and it's just unbelievable the way he lived life and kind of what he gave on the court, and I think I'm looking forward to the next episodes, talking about a couple of the other players and enjoying it. Yeah.
I'll add to that, Pero. I think that episode was my favourite about Rodman because once Pippen came back, he wasn't his value had kind of gone down a bit in his eyes. So he realized that he needed to change the way he played to add value. And that was, practicing, like rebounding, knowing where the ball was going to go once someone shot. So, he was in the gym countless hours getting his friends to throw up bombs and whatnot, and him just working out where the ball was going to go. So I love that episode. That was my favorite out of the 6. I had a conversation with someone the other day, sorry, Joel, about Rodman off the court and why did Jordan actually, how just accepting of Rodman and his antics and his, he was just out there. But, in Michael's eyes on the court, he knew that he needed Rodman. Rodman was there to play and was there to do the best for his team. Everything outside the court just stayed outside.
I was just going to say, Annie, between the three of you, do you have any recollection of teammates or people you saw that worked on their rebounding to that extent over the years?
Yeah. So Rhonda Corcoran, so she married Michael Corcoran. So Rhonda played with me with the Flames, and she just knew where that ball was going to go. Like, she was an undersized 4-man, but just had long arms, was just, just did the little things, just rebounded the ball well and just defended, her butt off. She had the assignment on the court, and she just reminds me of a player like Rodman.
Yep. Dave Parrott?
Yeah, I had 2. One was with the Rollers, I remember. Johnny Zaghetti was for an undersized post player in those days. But he strengthened his ability, and he was a great leaper, but his ability to get rebounds just purely on his strength and his ability to go after the ball and compete. And the other one, would you believe, was at TSS when I was there, Matty Gallotta, who's now been playing a little bit with the Rollers. He's an undersized 4-man. The one game he had 24 rebounds. And again, not a guy who could jump very athletically, but he used to just tip the ball and keep tipping until he got it. Or as Annie said with Rodman, he knew where to go to get it. So those 2, to me, undersized rebounders who sort of worked hard to compete and get the ball and know where to go.
Yeah.
Nice one. All right, we're just going to keep moving. We've got a fair few things I want to cover. I want to sort of touch a bit on, obviously, coronavirus at the moment. We're recording this on a Thursday night, and Parliament's meeting tomorrow in regards to delivering some more instructions. Word is that they're going to allow 10 people per court starting next week, and there's going to be different restrictions lifted as we go along. Could you all sort of comment on how it's affected the game in your spheres, be it FIBA Oceania for you, Annie, or schools, or for you, Dave, and state programs, and Pero, obviously, the New Zealand national team? How's it been? Have you been keeping in contact with the players, etc.?
I'll go here. For me, with the national team, there's been a lot of it all pushed to 2021. And I think there is a window open in November, and hoping things go well, like everybody's doing, that we're able to go through that. But it's it's such a long way. We're early May now, but everybody's keeping busy because all these players are obviously professional players and they can't go to their teams, but they're still doing their individual stuff at home. And probably 90% of the team live in New Zealand, and they're under different restrictions. A lot tougher there, I believe, and I think they're a week away from going down to level 2. But they went up to level 4 there. It was really tough for everybody there with the restrictions. But they're coming out of it pretty good. But I'm involved at Hillcrest High with a lot of the kids, and I don't. A lot of them doing outside stuff. They've got the home court stuff going on. They've got Gold Coast basketball putting out stuff for most of the kids that are also rep players and club players, and also FIBA are putting out some stuff. Everybody's putting out, so there's loads and loads of content online and keep them busy. It's just that you can only share by being online. You can't share and have that connect, and I think that's what everyone's missing, you know. They just want to get on the court and go at each other and enjoy it, get that connection, and yeah, I'm missing it a little too.
Yeah, definitely. Dave, you want to sort of maybe comment on the content that's coming out and what you're seeing in that regard?
Yeah, as Pero said, there's lots of content for the kids to get to, and hopefully they've got the discipline to work hard in their own environment. I've been a bit sad for a lot of the young players who've missed out on rep, state and national championships by the look of this year, which is really a time in their life that is really important for them, that they would never forget those experiences, and having the ability, you know, to prepare and work for those sorts of championships and only makes them better. But so I'm really hopeful that with the relaxation of a group of 10, that we can start to get back on the court, maybe with 8 players and 2 coaches, and you start to look at some 4-on-4 and some individual work or whatever we might be able to do. But I think it's important for the kids to get back as soon as they can, working in not singularly, but in a group. I think from the coach's point of view, I think it's an ideal time, and I hope they've taken that opportunity, you know, to invest that time that they've now got, you know, to improve their knowledge in this situation and make them well prepared for when, you know, they get back into the action as well. And I mean, that goes from referees, you know, everybody, officials, score bench, everybody should be taking this sort of time to improve their knowledge in whatever department they may be, so that they're ready when things do get back, that we're ready to go, and everybody has improved and not just been in hibernation, and accepted the fact that there's some things we can't get together and do. But if you've spent that time wisely, I think everybody will come out of it a little bit better.
Yeah, great. All right, Annie, what about FIBA? What's the big push from you guys, especially some of the smaller countries out there, development, etc.?
Yeah, look, everyone's in the same situation. All, you know, borders are closed. Lots of our federations are still in lockdown. We've done a lot of online courses. So we've webinars, you know, coaches, referees. We've had score table. We've got stats coming up. So we can. It's provided an opportunity now, as Dave said, to, you know, for development opportunities, for professional development opportunities. You know, it's easy to get online and watch these courses. So, you know, I agree with Dave. You know, there's lots of opportunity to better ourselves, the coaches, referees. And that's something that FIBA's really focused on, you know, over the next 2-3 months, to continue to do that. You know, we don't know when this lockdown is going to lift in our federation. So we're just providing them these opportunities, and hopefully once it's lifted, you know, they hit that runway sprinting, and, you know, we can just continue to grow the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I was talking to Basketball Queensland just recently about it, and they're trying to put some stuff together in regards to how the restrictions will look like and what that means for basketball. But they're still waiting to hear back from the state government, and they really haven't heard much. Excuse me. All right. Sorry. So next thing I want to get on, I might have to mute myself in a sec. Next topic I want to talk about is 3-on-3. Annie, I might start with you. Can you talk about what 3-on-3 internationally, what's happening, and FIBA's push for that, please?
Yeah, so, you know, 3x3 is now an Olympic sport. So it's an exhibition sport in Tokyo, whenever that will be. It has been a huge sport in Europe. You know, I feel like in Europe it's easy for it to be a big sport because the countries are so close together. You know, they can just travel from one to the other. Whereas for us, Oceania, we've got lots of water between our countries, so it's been a little bit more challenging. Australia have left it a couple of years too late. You know, it is all about rankings to participate at the Olympics. So we need to go into a qualifier to see if we can get through. But it is a sport that is really growing. It is an elite sport. It wasn't for a while in Australia, but it is now. And it's targeting those players that, you know, may not be the core of a 5-on-5 team, but, you know, it's a lot more physical. They're 10-minute games, so it's a sprint. And yeah, the referees just let a lot of contact go. You know, if there's hand fouls, they'll call it. The body fouls aren't called.
And are you seeing certain types of athletes being drawn more to 3-on-3? As you said, it's a sprint sort of style game, so they need to have better, more aerobic capacity, I guess.
It's definitely a lot faster. I mean, you know yourself, you know, when you get bumped, you get tired. So you're getting bumped for 10 minutes. So it's like just that the body type's stronger, very physical, can finish, you know, at basket. The court is that kind of plasticky surface. So, you know, that's different as well. So just getting used to that kind of surface is a challenge as well. But yeah, I mean, different body types than what is being used in 5-on-5, I believe.
Now, I know Dave and Pero, you've both seen a bit of the 3-on-3. Pero probably seen it a bit more internationally on your travels. One of the things I wanted to put out there and discuss with you, I know with cricket, when with the 2020 game coming in, there's been a lot of talk how that affects people playing test matches because they're playing a different style of game. I wanted to know if you think that's similar to basketball, playing 3-on-3. Would that affect players in the 5-on-5 form of the game? It is a slightly different style of game, and there's more focus on different things. Do you think there's any weight to that, Pero?
I think it's a bigger catch group. You know, I think some of the 5-on-5 players may be better suited for the 3-on-3. So ultimately, more players, bigger squads to play both, and I think a bigger catch group of players. The more players playing, the better. I think in any chance you can represent your country and go to a Olympics, you know, or go to some sort of world stage, that's pretty good, you know, and great for the sport. We got to compete with all these other sports that are they have hybrid games. You know, the rugby, the sevens has been there for 20 years, you know, and it's almost viewed as its own thing. It's great, the seven. So why not get into this 3-on-3? I wouldn't mind seeing the king of the world or the queen of the world, a 1-on-1. Who's the 1-on-1 champ?
You know, one thing though, like with 5-on-5, we do 3-on-3 drills. I mean, it really, having to guard your man 1-on-1, like you can't hide. You know, 3-on-3, it's such a tough, it's tough. You have to be able to score. You have to be able to defend someone. You know, 5-on-5, you could have one or two players kind of go and hide, whereas 3-on-3, you can't hide.
For a coach, you get to see both sides, the skills of defending and also the offensive skills, you know, and it's such a way to see it before you put them back on the court in a 5-on-5 situation, you know, and we know team defense is a little bit different, but man, you don't want rotation really as a defensive coach. You want to be able to rely on your own, you know, mark your own. That's how you do it.
And as a coach, I mean, how great is it having someone who can just take their man on, you know, you don't need somebody else to help you to get open. Like I can take you to the basket, you know, so it's like having those types of players, I think is really valuable.
I think Australia's been a bit slow to sort of embrace 3-on-3. I know in the time I've been involved with, there's been lots of different 3-on-3 competitions and tournaments, and they've all pretty much collapsed within a year. It's generally sort of been that sort of blacktop Reebok back in the day, sort of that flashy style of basketball. For someone like yourself, Dave, who's quite a purist of the game and traditionalist, it does sort of champion athletic individual play 3-on-3. What are your sort of thoughts in regards to that, Dave?
Well, I think one of the reasons why probably some of those tournaments haven't taken off, it's a bit like street basketball. In the USA, they grew up with that. You know, I mean, down at the playgrounds playing, that was the way a lot of those, you know, previous players emerged. I grew up playing one-on-one, and 3-on-3 is an extension. I think from a coach's point of view, I love 3-on-3, only on the strength that you can do so many things. And as Annie said, the less people out on the court, there's nowhere to hide. You improve your skills dramatically. If it's 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, there's so many things you can do from a coach's point of view that you can break down particular offensive, you know, maneuvers and isolate those players and give them a clear space to be able to operate in, and it makes it much harder for the defense. So I love that type of thing from a coach and a player development. I honestly think the 3-on-3, what we should be doing at association level in Queensland is that the summer leagues, where we play 5-on-5, the summer leagues, which are short, sharp seasons, should be reduced to 3-on-3. And I mean, from under 10, under 12, under 14, I don't care. You can get those both ends of the courts going, and you can have a lot of kids operating, and they are developing their skills for 5-on-5 in the main seasons and the rep seasons. But I certainly think we should be utilising 3-on-3 at that level to give the kids the space to improve their skills and the space to be able to dribble hard to the basket, get their shots, and just as importantly, particularly with the young ones, is that they are made to pass the ball.
And the other thing to add there, Dave, it's 12-second shot clock. So instead of these kids dribbling around the court for like 20 seconds and then just jacking up a shot, you know, they've got 12 seconds.
Yeah. I think Gold Coast could be the first one, Joel. Summer League. Under 10, under 12, under 14, we're playing 3-on-3.
Stop putting me on the spot, Dave. Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I know when we've talked about it at Basketball Queensland GM meetings, some of the stuff that has come back is you need to have shot scoreboards at each end, and so some people have pushed back on that, but you can get around that. There's things you can do with that. You know, it's not
portable scoreboards. You know, you only need to keep the score.
Right. You have the old outdoor scoreboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fine. All right, well, that's great, guys. I'm going to keep moving on. Next discussion point. I want to sort of talk to you all about during your time in the game, what changes in style, rules, etc., philosophies, set plays, etc. What things happened during your time in the game that you think were very significant and really changed the way the game was played, in your opinion? I might start with you, Annie, on this one.
Okay, so FIBA rules we used a size 7 ball, and then going to the WNBA, that was a size 6. So it was interesting just growing up using the size 7 and then having to adjust to a smaller ball. And you'd think that it'd be easier because it was smaller, it was lighter, but it was actually quite difficult to go between the both. The WNBA season was only 3 months, so then having to adjust again. And then, you know, the rules in the WNBA were different too, you know, being able to call a timeout on the court when you were playing, just different to FIBA. So just adjusting, I guess, to the differences.
Do you think that changing to the size 6 was the right decision overall for FIBA to do that?
Yeah, I think so. But it was just, you know, just for me at the time was a bit of a challenge. But no, definitely, I think going to the size 6 was the right thing to do. You know, you had the kids under 14, so the girls coming up, they're all using a size 6. So, you know, there was no changes for them.
Cool. Nice one. Dave, you got something for me?
Yeah, I think looking at the style of games, I mean, I think we've progressed from more of a system offensive type of game to a more conceptual game. That's been more recent. And Pero would speak more on that than me. But I think, you know, there is still when I look at college, I watch a lot of college basketball. They still have their, offensive sets, and some play more transition basketball, and that certainly has become more prevalent up and down. But I think there's still a combination of system and conceptual. I mean, Andre Lamanis has brought a lot of conceptual stuff through the Boomers recently, and that's like read and react type, which is good, I think, in terms of teaching kids how to read and react on the court. I think there's still room for players to be able to run sets and good screening action to get particular players open if they want to. I think the other thing was, and I'll be interested to ask Annie and Pero this question. The difference between pack defense and what I would call pressure defense, and I still see a combination of those things. Some are clearly into pack defense, some are still clearly into pressure defense. And I think it'd be good for the Pero and Annie to explore that a little bit. I think with Basketball Queensland, they have developed a style that they want, attack the rim. I'm not a great believer in the options of either attack the rim and finish or the three-point shot. What's in between? I'm still a great believer that there is a mid-range game that can be played if the players are skilled and developed in that way at a younger age. So I think having young players only looking at attacking the rim or three-point shot, they are not ready and their percentage is low to be shooting three-point and not having some other mid-range game to fall back with. So there's lots of those sorts of things that have changed. And in the player personnel, you've gone more to the stretch four, the bigger players who stretch the floor more with their perimeter. I hopefully never get to the point where we are, the big men are lost in this and that we just go small ball. That's a tactical thing to me, not necessarily a style of game. It's a tactical thing coaches can use during the game. So those sorts of things to me are changes that I've noticed more recently.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you want to sort of touch on that, Pero or Annie, what Dave was saying about pressure or pack defense?
I think for me, in this last seen a lot of things at the international stage the last 10 years. I thought, now that we're in the Asian kind of region, and there's 3 to 5 different events or windows during a year, your squad is not generally the same. So for me, I have a number of players that are available for 2 or 3 of them, but never for 5. So, and normally the European players you only get for a small window of the year. And I guess that's the same for Australia with the NBA players playing in the Olympics and Worlds compared to the windows they have throughout the year. There may be only a couple of players that make that Olympic squad or that World Champ squad. So your team's different or your personnel's different. And you got to play in a way that you have to scout, obviously, the team you're playing, and you got to play in a way that gives you an advantage, and that's both ends of the court. So there's a lot of things to consider, even more now that we're in this different region. But in saying that, you want to be a little bit up and in full court. You want to try different things, but still within your personnel. Do you know what I mean? And there are things you, as a coach, you think work for you, and things that when you try them, wow, that didn't work, and then you're back to square one. So it's always, what Dave was saying, we have Corey Webster's a tremendous scorer, and he can score it in the mid-range really good as well. But is that what we want? I think you got to be good at everything, because the defense can make you have only mid-range shots if they want to. Run you off the 3-point line and have rim protectors with size at the ring. And so you get forced into those mid-range shots, and you got to be able to make them when they're presented to you. And you got to be able to adjust, and that's both sides too. Yeah.
I know, Pero, me and you have had long discussions over the years about Gold Coast basketball from an association standpoint, about what our style of play is. And obviously Melbourne Tigers for many, many years ran the shuffle cut through their juniors, through their senior programs, and had great success with that. And we've always had Basketball Queensland sort of saying this is what they want. Dave touched on it just before about their style of play currently. I've always wanted our juniors to have different representative coaches with different philosophies and different styles of coaching, to give them a broader view of how to play the game, and to have different sort of, just be able to sort of do different things differently. I do find though that, like, with the NBA, there's been, when you look at the statistics, the mid-range shot is just dying. It's like coaches are telling players not to shoot it. Like, it's just, the percentage of shots is just going down and down and down. And it's interesting that BQ is sort of focusing on the same sort of thing. Just on that sort of concept, people look to the highest level to try and think of how they should sort of coach themselves, or what sort of philosophies they should have. But I thought it was really, and so lots of coaches tend to be a little bit snobby in that regard. They try and sort of coach the way the elite coaches coach, and that might not be the best for junior development. But I loved last year in the NBA Finals, Toronto in Game 2 against the Golden State Warriors, and their coach, Nick Nurse, put in a box and one. Do you guys remember that? He changed his defense to a box and one. And I don't think the NBA had seen a box and one in 20 years, you know? And it was effective. And it changed the momentum of the game. It worked. And everyone was sort of stunned about it, because, how could an NBA coach have such a primitive schoolyard defense? So sometimes I feel that it doesn't have to be the most sort of complex style of play to get results. I sort of went on a bit of a tangent there, but but you would you agree with that, Dave?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I wouldn't have seen a box and one for ages. But I mean, I still go back to the fact that what happens at NBL and NBA level with mature players, international level with mature players, doesn't happen at under 14 and under 16, and even possibly towards under 18. The kids are just not ready to be jacking up everybody 3-point shots out of the whole team. And I watched the under 16 state titles earlier. It was the under 18, state titles. And the number of kids who could actually shoot well from the 3-point line, you could count on one hand out of all the teams. So my point is, I don't dismiss the 3-point shot. That's great in innovation. But who can shoot it, and who's been developed the technique to be consistently well enough to shoot the ball, rather than just have everybody jacking up 3-point shots, and you look at the score at the end of it, you're 4 from 27.
Very much after the NBA. My son's just come back from college, and their coach didn't want the mid-range shot, threes and layups. That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
So I mean, they didn't even practice, mid-range jump shots. It's a shame.
That is. That to me is not developing young talent. You know?
What about internationally, Pero? Are you guys focused on that? I'm sure you.
Yeah, we just try and push the ball as fast as we can, and if the layup presents itself, we take it. But if it's taken away, we try to get to the corners, normal stuff, and then we try and create something if we don't get anything there,
All right, cool. Did you want to add anything else to that, Pero, about changes in style within the game, or anything that sort of made a difference to people's philosophies or anything? Is there anything else you wanted to touch on there, or do you want to move on?
I'm good.
All right, cool.
I'd like to go back to the pack defense and the pressure defense. And
Okay.
just
Yeah. Okay. Can I add, like the pack defense, I find that, is that just because coaches don't want to teach players how to play denial defense? Like, I feel like if you've got good shooters, you can't play pack defense. You know, are you just daring players to shoot then?
That's right.
Hoping that they're going to miss. Is that what the whole philosophy is with pack defense?
I think, on top of that, Annie, that's a good point. And on top of that is the coaches don't want to teach or spend the time, or the individual players, of actually how can you contain your man one-on-one. Can you stay in front of the ball? And if you can't, are we giving up layups? Or are we going to pack it in and make them shoot outside and take away the penetration? Or do we want to pressure and try and force some turnovers and be more disruptive?
It comes back to your point, though, as well, Dave. You counting shooters at the tournament on one hand. Like, if they can't shoot, you're leaving big gaps for one-on-one, and sometimes that's a bigger task to do. You know, you come across small penetrating ball handlers in a team than you do pretty good shooters, correct?
Yeah.
So you pack it in almost like the old school zone. You know, let's zone them up and make them shoot on the outside, no layups, and we got inside possession on everything. And it's like they just play the percentages, you know, and it's unfortunate, but the only way you kind of get penetration is if you, from the rebound, you push the ball and you know, they can't set up, fast break. You know, that's it. Otherwise, it's really hard against the pack defense. And most of the colleges are like that. You know, they're like that. That's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had Virginia had some, you know, really successful pack defense, and the coach there, his father was the instigator of the pack defense. So because he was successful, it's like most things. Oh, he won a championship, or he made the Final Four. He must be doing something right. We ought to do that. So it creates a trend, and I agree with Pero. It's basically zoning to an extent, you know, and particularly in younger junior players who don't shoot the ball that well, you know, it can be a useful target. But again, in the overall development of the players, can we teach them to be able to keep in front of the ball? Because it's probably still the most difficult thing to do in basketball.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Any you want to add to that?
I mean, I agree with what everyone's saying. I understand that, you know, you are, if like what Dave says, if you can only count on one hand the shooters, then obviously you're just going to stay off. You know, dare them to shoot it, get the rebound, and off to the races. So I get that idea. It's just a shame that, you know, because they won't be playing in that team. You know, if they do go to another team, do they know how to play up in the lanes? You know, so we just got to make sure that we are teaching our players all different types of defensive opportunities.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Excellent. That was really good, guys. The next discussion topic I have is a good one. Give myself a wrap, eh? When I want you to talk about during your time within the game, teammates or opponents, someone who had a great impact on the game, who might not have been the world's best player or athlete, but they led with their leadership or personality, really impacted the game. So I know I've asked you guys to think of this before. I might start with you, Pero, on this one. Someone that you thought was a great leader, and why that was, or why their personality was so strong.
Yeah, so for me, and he kind of fit in with their rebounding guy, Mika Vukona. You know, for me, he kind of never spoke to the group, and I played with him as well. He was more of a guy just showed you, and you just sat back and you just went with him, you know, and all his teammates know you're kind of empowered, especially when this guy stands next to you. You know, he just gets things done, and he guards a point guard, he guards a five. Doesn't matter, you know. And I think wasn't the best scorer, but the way he kind of impacted his will on individuals was pretty good, you know, and not a great kind of whole team leader, but definitely really good with his personal touches within the group.
That's a good one. Thanks for that. Annie?
I mentioned this to you before. Helen Luz, she was the point guard for Brazil for many years. So we, obviously played against each other, but played with each other when I was with the Mystics and the WNBA. And she went from being, a starter for her national team to not playing that much in the WNBA, but was someone who was, worked so hard at practice, doing extra work, was a real team player on the bench, was very supportive. Even though, like, if you went to Brazil, everyone knew who she was. So she was the type of person that kind of understood what her role was in the team, and wasn't like negative or anything like that. She was really positive. So, and I see her now online, and she's, an advocate. She's out there working with young girls, running clinics, and, doing that basketball for good kind of those programs. And like, she's really given back to the game. So being around someone like that, I think she's very inspirational. Thought she was a great teammate.
And was she very vocal, Annie? Very vocal, or was just strong in personality?
Strong in personality. English is not her first language, so playing in a country that it was, she didn't say a lot, but what she showed in her actions was a real leader. Like, it would have been easy for her just to be down in the dumps, and when she got on and she made the most of the opportunities she did, she really got us going. And someone that I think of to this day was a great person. A good player, great person.
Excellent. Thanks, Annie. Dave?
Well, I got several. And I preface it by saying that I look at the players that I consider to be leaders, is how they practice, how they play, and what do they do. Not what they say, what do they actually do. And I couldn't agree more with Pero. Vicona is right at the top of my list. I've watched him over many years. Mate, I would love him to be on my team. So I think Vicona. Another similar type of player with the Australian team many years ago was Andrew Vlahoff. Now, Vlahoff was a very strong individual. And I remember we played a game with the Australian team. We played UCLA, and we're warming up, and because he played with Stanford in the college. And as we're warming up, the UCLA coach came up to him as he's warming up, and he said, "The butcher's back." So Vlahoff made an impression, I think, with the butcher's back. So, he didn't hold back on him. Another player that was Loggins. Loggins was a sort of player, not physical, everyday practice. Every day, every game he played. He always turned up. Never had a lot to say, but he got it done every single day. Steve Woodbury was a similar type of player. Woodbury came out of Kansas University. Now, I think he might not necessarily totally agree with it, but CJ Bruton owes a lot to Woodbury, him as a young player with the Bullets. And I think he helped make CJ the player he became. A local player who played for the Rollers, Peter Harvey. Not many people know Peter Harvey. He was a little point guard from Newcastle we brought in every day of practice. Every individual, and Andre LaFleur was one of them, he would put it on him. Every individual import guard we would bring in, Harvey would meet him at the three-quarter court every day, and same when we played. He'd pick up every other point guard, which was usually an import US. And the last one I want to mention is someone like Dellavedova when he played for Cleveland. Now, who tapped him on the shoulder and said, what a teammate? LeBron James. Because Dellavedova wasn't great skills, but he never, ever gave up on the court. And he was a leader in that sense. And to be recognised by someone like LeBron when they won a championship, I think is testimony to someone like Dellavedova.
Great ones, Dave. You guys want to make any further comment to that, Annie or Pero?
I agree. I agree with Dave. Yeah.
Dellavedova was a pest, mate. I just wanted to kill him on the court.
Give him a
My
bit of
area,
an elbow. Give him a bow.
My area, you weren't allowed to touch them, so I had to, be nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess probably the theme there is sacrifice is always pretty much what you guys were all sort of touching on when it comes down to it. And great teammates are always people that do that and put the team ahead of themselves. And yeah, it's phenomenal when you have someone, a teammate or someone you coach who you just don't have to worry about. They'll set the example for everyone else, and it just, as you said, it lifts everyone else. And it's awesome to be involved with those people whenever you can. Yeah, so, thanks for sharing those, guys. Now, I asked you all to bring a piece of memorabilia along tonight and show everyone a piece of memorabilia you have in your house and a little bit of a story with it. I can see Dave's got posters in his office all over the place, and Andy's got a couple there. Perry, did you remember to bring something?
Yeah, so I got banished to the room because they're all doing their thing out there. So I'll go into the office and I'll show you something. But someone else can start with us.
All right, we'll start with you, Annie, please.
Okay, I'll just move it.
Oh.
All right, break it down, Eddie.
Okay, so on the left, Washington. Actually, I'll go the links first. So that was my first year in the WNBA in '99. I was playing for the Sydney Flames at the time, and Trish Fallon was going to be drafted by the Minnesota Lynx. The coach saw film of her playing, saw me passing her the ball, and so I got picked up as a free agent. So, yeah, an experience, didn't get to play a lot, but got my foot in the door. And, yeah, I mean, you know, Minnesota, I don't know if you guys have been there, but not much there except for the Mall of America in Minneapolis. So we spent many days at the mall. Our season wasn't that great. We probably had a good team on paper, but only won basketball. So didn't do too well. Then got traded to the Washington Mystics, so that's the one on the left. Played there for 3 years. Tom Maher was the coach in 2001. So Tom Maher was the Opals coach at the time. We only won 3 games, which was unfortunate. So unfortunately, Tom wasn't there for the next season. And then, yeah, so played 2 more seasons. Our assistant coach under Tom, Marianne Stanley, was our coach. So we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and played New York and in the best of 3 and lost 2-1. Madison Square Garden's my favourite court. Like Michael Jordan, we both love the same court. So, you know.
Awesome.
So that's me right there.
I never knew you played at the Mecca. That's awesome, Eddie. That is awesome. Very, very impressive. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that, Eddie. What about you, Dave? What do you got for us tonight, mate?
Oh, well, I talked about Woodbury, and this, I don't know whether you can see it, that is the roller's singlet, and that's his singlet, if you can see Woodbury.
Yep.
Now, how he came about playing, we lost an import player and during the season, early in the season, and we had to replace. And it happened to be that the year before I'd been with Roy Williams at Kansas, and I used to visit Roy Williams at Kansas probably 3 years in a row. And I actually saw Woodbury play with Kansas in a college game the year before, and I thought he was just a brilliant player. Not quite NBA, but everything else. So when we had to replace him very quickly, I made a phone call to Roy Williams. And I said, you wouldn't happen to know where Steve Woodbury is right now. Is he playing in Europe, which is what I heard? He said, well, he was, Dave, but he never got paid. So he's left. And would you believe, he's actually downstairs on the court right now, working out. And I go, how good's that? And I told him the story, and he said, you leave it with me. I'll talk to his agent. And if I can get him, you will have Steve Woodbury playing for you on the Gold Coast. Well, less than 2 weeks later, that's where he was. And he had a horrific injury one Thursday night at practice, the last 5 minutes of practice. He dislocated his ankle so badly we had to get the ambulance. And they said he probably wouldn't recover properly from that ankle injury. It was so bad. But he did. And he played for the Brisbane Bullets after that. And what a player I think he was in the NBL. And when he was at the Brisbane Bullets, that was the period he took CJ Breeden under his wing. And as I said earlier, probably made CJ a lot to do with what he finished up with his career.
Oh, that's excellent, Dave. Do you want to sort of touch on some of the posters you got behind you? You got a couple of Rollers team photos. What's the AFL jersey you've got up there, mate? What's that one?
Well, I'm an Essendon supporter and have been for 60 plus years.
All right.
So from that point of view, red and black in the AFL is my team. And I've got Timmy Watson.
Yep.
And on the other side here, I've got a Brownlow medalist, Gavin Wanganeen, who finished up playing at Port Adelaide. But I've got his training Guernsey straight off the park with the mud still on it. And I framed it. So I've got Timmy Watson, a legend, and Gavin Wanganeen's up there on my wall.
Well, I know when I was around at your place today earlier, Dave, setting you up, making sure you're technically proficient, you showed me in your garage there was boxes and boxes of old VHSs and even older than VHSs. I wasn't even sure what you call those things. 8mm or something you were trying to tell me? I've never even seen them, mate.
Yeah, dark ages.
Yeah, so I'll definitely have to try and sort of get some of them off you, and we'll go through that on another stage for sure. Really enjoy that. All right, Pero, have you got something for us, mate?
Mate, so that's where my stuff is, Dave. I just showed the garage. They threw all my stuff in there. So I don't really have anything on my walls anymore. But something I'm pretty proud about is you might see that up there. My two boys' singlets playing when they played in the Oceania qualifier against Australia. So pretty proud of that. And really it's the only thing hanging up these days. So I don't get much of my stuff, which is good.
Very humble, Pero. Very humble, mate.
Did you get a Hall of Fame trophy or a medallion or something? What did they give you?
I got a ring. I did get a ring somewhere.
Where is it? Show us your ring.
I don't know. I think
Pero.
it's in my daughter's room. She's using it to go out with this weekend, I think. Yeah, very lucky to get a little plug out to Legasics who made me that ring was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool, mate. Very cool. Well, listen, appreciate you all joining us tonight. I really appreciate you supporting Gold Coast basketball with this. I know it's something that you're all invested in the game, and I'll be getting this out to the masses. This is something that we'll be looking to do different variations of this going forward. I'm sure I'll be inviting you all back to different things over the next few months, especially if we're all still struggling to sort of return to normalcy. But yeah, as I said, really appreciate all of you coming here and giving us your time. And got a lot out of it tonight, so I appreciate you coming and sort of giving us your best thoughts. So we'll wrap it up now. Any last things from you guys? I'll start with you, Annie.
No, looking forward to seeing everyone on the court. Hopefully that's soon. Appreciate you, Joel, for putting this together. I'm sure everyone out there will be eager to see what all the people you're getting on. So thank you for letting us be the first.
Beautiful, Dave.
Yeah, no, all the best, Joel. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And just can't wait. Like I said, Pero said earlier, I think we can't wait to get back on the court and let's do our stuff.
Oh, thank you, Dave. And Pero, lastly, you?
Yeah, thank you, Annie and Dave. Always good. You know, I come here 10, 12 years ago and straight away looked you guys up. You know, Dave's been a great mentor for me. And I've been watching Annie from a distance out there and Wednesday night social league. Still got it, Annie.
So, no more, Pero, no more.
And appreciate your work, Jolly. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. And as I said, I'll be definitely hitting you up for things going forward. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.